Sports figures can very quickly become the biggest stars in the world, and it's not hard to figure out why. Their success brings happiness to millions, if not billions of people that the little guys like us live vicariously through. And both statistically and anecdotally, there's a lot to back that up. The two most followed people on Instagram, and the only two above 500 million, are Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. I don't need to tell you how visible Travis Kelce is in media after he started dating the biggest singer in the world, on top of being a future Hall of Fame football player. LeBron's 40 years old this season, and he still gets swarmed anywhere he goes in the world. But baseball players, they have the least fanfare they have maybe ever had. And that's sad, because baseball is as fun and as talented as it's ever been. This is admittedly very anecdotal, I know, but in non-sports related product or service ads outside of actual baseball games, I can't tell you the last time I saw a baseball player as the spokesman. Sure, Aaron Judge has a prime flavor. I'm counting a sports drink as sports-related, by the way. Sure, Shohei Ohtani's Japanese appeal is likely unquantifiable, but focusing this topic on how things are in the US, where baseball is supposedly the national pastime, we've seen a drop-off in baseball players becoming the biggest sports stars. Gone are the Babe Ruths, Ken Griffey Jr.'s, Derek Jeters that transcend the game in a positive way, and can be seen by anyone around the nation, and you'll still probably know their name. That's an honor now given to this country's football players, basketball players, one soccer player, and a handful of other non-team sport athletes. And it's especially craziest with football players because they have more than double the amount of players on the roster or in a game at any given time. So theoretically, one shouldn't be as noticeable, especially when you can't even see their faces during the game. I mean, you want to see football's dominance in American sports? Go look at the NIL rankings for college. It's like mostly football players, a handful of basketball players, and Livy Dunn. No baseball at all on the top rankings. Also, I lied a few seconds ago. I can tell you the last time I saw a baseball player in a commercial that had nothing to do with sports. It was when Mookie Betts was in a Call of Duty commercial. However, I bet when all of my COD fan friends who know who like Victor Reznov and Mr. Raffle Waffles are looked at Mookie Betts and had no idea of his identity. Let alone that he was a two-time champion former MVP that had one of the best seasons of all time in 2018. Which means something, since baseball is like so old. But no, you know Patrick Mahomes. You knew Tom Brady. You see ads with Justin Jefferson nationwide. You want to know something though? I don't think this is really baseball's fault. This may be the single most subjective video I'll ever make, but this is at least how I perceive the situation as a longtime and practically everyday baseball viewer who also, exists in society.
We're living in a society!
And what I want to do here is examine what the root causes of this are, and how, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's not exactly something Major League Baseball is capable of fully solving when competing with other sports in the US. Think about it like this. Pretend you want to watch Aaron Judge push to continually break home run records, or something like that. But whoops, you just turned on the TV right after he made the last out of an inning. Commercial break time. Guess what? Now, you might not see Aaron Judge bat again for another hour. We are immediate gratification needers now in this country. That's not gonna fly to the dumb non-baseball appreciator. You're also disadvantaged now because a baseball hitter typically only gets 3 to 5 times hitting per game, and you just missed one of those very few. Compare that to the astronomically more pass attempts, touches, or shots, for instance. Say you had the same screw-up on timing with a basketball game. You more than likely get to see your favorite player on the floor again within 5 or 10 minutes after you turn the TV on. And basketball is a sport that is best capable of printing superstars, so let's take a moment to compare that to baseball for the purposes of this discussion. Basketball is a game where one player can control the game the most, thanks to it only being 5-on-5. You see their faces with nothing obstructing them, and come playoff time with the small roster sizes, and the way basketball works, it often becomes a matchup of this star's team versus that star's team. In a weird way, the whole team gets dumbed down to a one-on-one matchup between the biggest star on that team. Also, sure, both baseball and basketball players can celebrate, but basketball celebrations are generally beloved, even the failed ones, whereas baseball's code is still kind of undecided on if you can do it without being chastised by older people in the game. The biggest difference here is the impact a great player can have in each sport. Wins above replacement, or WAR if you prefer acronyms, is a baseball stat that tries to quantify how many more wins a particular baseball player would help their team pick up, instead of a replacement filler player who plays the same position. The player with the most WAR in a season since integration, according to Baseball Reference, was Dwight Gooden in 1985 with 13.3. Now, that's amazing, but still just 13 wins in a 162-game season. Every year, there are many NBA players who blow past that total in the closest stat basketball has, which is win shares, and they do it in about half the games. And the record for win shares in a season in NBA history blows past the WAR record too, in that half-size schedule. This isn't a knock against baseball players, it's a knock against how baseball works. One player doesn't matter as much in the grand scheme of baseball. That's part of why I love it, but by and large, people watch sports to chase individual greatness. We watched golf to see Tiger, we watched cycling for Lance Armstrong, we watched tennis for Serena, and we watched swimming for Michael Phelps. They're all out there in striking distance of racking up championship after championship. Baseball stars haven't done that because they simply aren't able to do it all on their own. Barry Bonds never won a World Series, Aaron Judge and Ken Griffey Jr. have never been, Mike Trout has never won a playoff game, and he's like indisputably the best player of his generation in baseball. Shohei Ohtani's only just now about to appear in his first playoff game. Derek Jeter winning 5 rings in New York City is easily the biggest reason why he became the last universal baseball star in America. Fans are drawn to the push for individual success and greatness. I know you. If you found out, like, your wife's boyfriend was the world's best rock, paper, scissors player, you would go watch him play down the street. You're not fooling me. Here, I'll give you a story from my own personal experience. When Scottie Scheffler, the best golfer in the world, got arrested on his way to go play golf, I watched it that day. 'Cause, like, the pursuit of him winning after being arrested was interesting to me. He didn't, but I watched for that pursuit of greatness. Happens in other sports too. Just look at the draw Caitlin Clark became in basketball when she was pushing becoming college basketball's all-time scoring leader. And for pitchers, even pitchers like Dwight Gooden, there's the whole separate issue of starting pitchers only going once every 5 games at best. And these days, they both pitch fewer innings than ever before and drop like flies health-wise more than ever. So creating stars out of pitchers so viewers can specifically watch for them is more challenging than it's ever been in the current MLB landscape. It's especially weird to compare baseball's lack of star power to the NFL's ability to print out new stars every season in this country. In theory, 1 player out of 11 shouldn't be able to make that much of an impact. Meanwhile, NFL quarterback is the hardest and most impactful position in all of sports, and receivers might have the most awe-inspiring shows of athleticism of any position. This more than compensates for the fact that you can't see any of their faces in game, as does the sport's ability to churn out players who feel unique to themselves based on their style, personal celebrations, or general on or off the field aesthetic. Like, hey, remember Tommy DeVito? He was like the new hot thing in the NFL for a couple weeks. He's already a 3rd-string quarterback in under a year. But because being a quarterback is so difficult and you had a cool story for a new one, that balance of cool and difficult was so easily bridged by a story like that. He didn't even have to be all that good. That's how good the NFL is at generating new stars. Soccer has that balance of difficulty and cool individual type celebrations you can have that emphasize how difficult scoring in the sport can be. Remember when Messi first got to Inter Miami in the US and he was hitting different Marvel-themed celebrations? Not for him, but for his kids, because they were actively watching a lot of Marvel movies at the time. That's really cool. and something you can then place as a piece of Messi's own individual personal brand. Baseball, for well over 150 years, actively repressed the idea of individuality and showmanship. There was this whole cliche about playing the game the right way. And while it makes sense in theory, it really discouraged anybody doing anything that hadn't been done in 1880. A huge step was made in 2019 when cleat requirements started to be relaxed to allow for more individuality. But I have an idea that goes one step further. I want the bat requirements totally relaxed too. Do you realize how much potential there is in the concept of, oh yeah, I know that guy. He's the one with the flag painted bat, or the cool wacky color design painted bat, or the, I don't know, Tim Robinson face painted on it bat. You get the gist. But as it currently stands, baseball still hasn't resolved its own conflicts on showmanship, spunk, and individual expression. It's close, but we're not all the way there yet. I think the further we go down that path of players having personality visible at all times, the more marketable they're going to become. And there are a lot of baseball players who are weird, fun, and really cool people. Everyone should get to see that. Anyways, yeah, I love baseball. I think it's as good as it's ever been, and as fun as it's ever been, with the most talented athletes they've ever had. And ideally, I want everyone in the world to see that. That's why I do what I do for a living. But I also understand the sport has its limitations, or at least things to be aware of that have obstructed its ability to stack up with other sports in creating younger or more casual fans. One thing's for sure though, baseball is not dying. They've said that for like 140 years in this country, and it's still going strong and making way more money than before. It's just about time for the rest of the country to notice its biggest stars.